Welcome to Strange Serenity,
Yeah.
where we like to take these deep dives into the profound, the overlooked, and the culturally rich.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're going back to 1999
Okay.
to explore an animated series from MTV called Downtown.
Oh, wow.
And maybe you're here for the nostalgia trip, or maybe you've never even heard of this show.
Right.
But either way, we're going to unearth what made Downtown so unique
Yeah.
and see if we can figure out why it still resonates, all these years later.
Well, what's really fascinating about Downtown is that it manages to capture the energy of its time and place in 1999 New York City.
Oh, yeah,
But it also explores these universal themes that I think still resonate with people today.
totally.
It's like this little time capsule, but it also gives you a glimpse into just the human experience.
Yeah, so let's set the stage a bit.
Okay.
Um, Downtown drops us right into the heart of 1999 New York City,
Oh, wow.
a time when the internet was exploding.
Right.
Y2K anxiety was looming,
Mm-hmm.
and pop culture was just constantly changing.
Right.
And in the middle of all this chaos, we meet our main character, Alex.
And Alex, unlike a lot of animated characters at the time, feels incredibly real. He's this relatable everyman just trying to navigate being a young adult and figure out where he fits in this huge city that never stops changing.
Mm.
He's into like comics and video games, all that stuff you'd expect from a 90s kid.
Right.
But he's also dealing with these real anxieties and aspirations.
Yeah, he's not just some stereotype, right?
Exactly.
And it's interesting how Downtown contrasts Alex with his sister Chaka,
Oh, yeah.
who brings this whole rebellious energy to the group.
Yes.
Right away you get that classic sibling dynamic,
Really.
the clashes, the competition, but also that, underlying love and loyalty.
And the show's really good at creating these nuanced relationships, and Chaka's a great example.
Mm.
She's not just your typical rebellious teenager trope.
Right.
Downtown digs deeper and shows her drive, her passion, and how she's determined to just do things her own way.
Totally. And then we've got Jen, Alex's crush, who kind of represents that cool artistic energy that New York is known for.
Uh-huh.
And then there's Fruity, the eccentric friend, who always seems to be bringing the unexpected.
Yeah, and we can't forget Goat,
Oh, right, Gok.
who throws in a little wild card energy into the group.
He does.
He often acts as a catalyst for the show's more surreal humor.
Yes, and that's what's so compelling about the characters in Downtown.
Mm-hmm.
They're also unique and different, but they still feel grounded and relatable.
Yeah.
You can really see how they represent all these different sides of, what it means to be human.
Exactly. It's their flaws and vulnerabilities that make them so relatable.
Totally.
They're not perfect. They make mistakes. They have dreams that might seem a little out there.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them feel like real people, like people you could actually bump into on the street in New York City.
It's like Downtown is saying, hey, it's okay to be a little messy, a little lost,
Right.
a little unsure of yourself. And I think that message really resonates with people no matter where or when they grew up.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another thing that makes Downtown so unique.
Okay.
The artistic style.
Oh, yeah.
They blended traditional animation techniques with this like grungy hand-drawn aesthetic.
Uh-huh.
It perfectly captures that urban grit of New York City.
Yes. It's not your typical polished animation.
Right.
You can practically feel the texture of the city,
Mm-hmm.
the energy of the streets, the pulse of that underground art scene.
It's a very deliberate choice, and it reflects the rawness and authenticity of the characters' lives.
Yeah,
It's not trying to be pretty or perfect, it's trying to be real.
right.
And that visual style plays a huge role in setting the show's tone and atmosphere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. And speaking of authenticity, we got to talk about the soundtrack.
Right.
It's like a perfect time capsule of late 90s music.
It's not just some random collection of songs, though.
Yeah.
It's curated so carefully to show both the characters' tastes and like the sounds of the city itself.
It's true. You've got your indie rock, hip hop, electronic music. It's all blended right into the story.
Yeah, it's almost like the music is another character.
I agree.
Driving the mood, shaping the scenes, adding all these layers of emotion.
Exactly. And that attention to detail goes for the storytelling, too.
Okay.
Downtown is not afraid to experiment at all.
Yeah.
You see things like nonlinear narratives, dream sequences, even surreal humor sometimes, all to really dig into what's going on inside the characters' heads.
It's like they're peeling back those layers of consciousness, right?
Right.
Showing us how the characters think and feel and experience the world.
Yeah, and it's through these kind of innovative storytelling techniques that Downtown tackles some pretty complex themes.
Oh, yeah.
It looks at the struggle for identity, The ups and downs of friendship and love.
Mm-hmm.
That search for meaning when everything feels kind of overwhelming.
It's not just about the last then, is it?
No, not at all.
There's a real depth and sincerity to how Downtown tells its stories. Absolutely, and what's remarkable is how they balance that depth with humor.
Right.
It's not afraid to poke fun at the awkwardness of growing up, all the crazy stuff about life, the challenges of just figuring out relationships.
Yeah, and it's that mix of humor and heart that makes the show so relatable.
Right.
And so endearing, and it's probably why, even though it didn't run for very long, Downtown had such a lasting impact on animation.
You can see its influence in shows that came later, like
Yeah.
Daria, for sure, The Boondocks, even BoJack Horseman.
Interesting.
They all share that willingness to push the boundaries, explore complex themes, and present characters who are flawed but relatable.
So it's like Downtown planted a seed that paved the way for a whole new wave of animation, one that took a more sophisticated and nuanced approach to storytelling.
Totally. It made animation legit as a way to tell stories that could connect with a wider audience.
Yeah, not just kids.
Right? Downtown proved animation could be smart, funny, and emotionally resonant all at the same time.
Yeah. And I think what makes Downtown so special is its timelessness.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a product of its time, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the things it explores, identity, connection, belonging, those are universal.
Right.
You know, they go beyond any one era.
It speaks to the human condition, no matter when or where you grew up.
Yeah.
And that's why even decades later, Downtown still feels fresh, relevant, and surprisingly insightful.
It's like a time capsule, but also this timeless message about what it means to be human,
Right.
to navigate life and figure out where you fit in.
And it reminds us that sometimes the most profound stories come from unexpected places.
That's true.
Like a short-lived MTV cartoon might not seem like the obvious source of deep insights.
Right.
But Downtown shows that great storytelling can come from anywhere.
You know, we spent all this time talking about what made Downtown so unique. The characters, the themes, the style, you know, the impact.
Right.
But there's this big question that just keeps coming back.
What's the...
Why did a show this good, this groundbreaking,
Yeah.
only get 13 episodes?
Yeah, it's a mystery for sure, one that's haunted fans for years.
Right, like how could something connect with so many people and then just be gone?
Some people say it all comes down to ratings.
Oh yeah, makes sense.
Maybe Downtown didn't find its audience right away. And MTV all about those numbers. You know, they just pulled the plug.
It's possible. I mean, this was the late 90s.
Yeah,
MTV's still all about music videos and reality shows.
Exactly.
So something like Downtown with its, you know, complex characters and those introspective moments, maybe that felt like a big risk.
It definitely wasn't your typical MTV kind of thing.
No, not at all. But there's that other theory, right?
Yes.
That Downtown was just too ahead of its time.
I think that's a really compelling argument. I mean, Downtown dealt with mature themes, had that edgy humor, and played with how it told stories, you know, in a non-linear way.
Right.
And this was all before shows like Daria or BoJack really made adult animation a thing.
So maybe Downtown was like this pioneer
I think so.
pushing boundaries,
Right.
but it got there before people were ready.
Think about all the animation back then in the late 90s.
Okay.
Most shows, for older audiences, they were still mostly satirical.
Like The Simpsons.
Yeah, like The Simpsons, South Park.
Right.
Downtown went for something totally different, sincerity.
So it wanted to make you laugh, but also make you think, make you feel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe that kind of emotional depth was just too new for people at the time.
It's really interesting to think about how Downtown would have done if it came out just a few years later.
Right.
Would it have found more of an audience? Would its legacy be even bigger?
Who knows?
We can't know for sure, but what's clear is that Downtown left its mark.
It did.
We could see it in so many animated shows that came after, shows that weren't afraid to be different, to push the limits, you know, to talk to a more grown-up audience.
And maybe that's the most important thing we can take away from Downtown's story.
What's that?
Real innovation always comes with risks. Sometimes the most groundbreaking ideas, people fight them, and it takes time for them to find their place.
But those are the ideas that end up changing things.
Exactly.
You challenge how things are done. They inspire other people to make something new, something bold, something that breaks the mold.
Downtown might have had a short run, but its impact on animation was huge.
Yeah.
It reminds us that sometimes the most powerful stories come from the most unexpected places.
And as viewers, it's our job to find those stories, to support the shows that are different, to appreciate the creators who push those boundaries and make us think differently.
So even though it's sad, Downtown only had 13 episodes. We can celebrate what it left behind.
and how it changed animation.
Right. And who knows, maybe someday it'll finally get the recognition it deserves.
Thanks for joining us on this strange Serenity deep dive into Downtown.
Yes, thank you.
We hope going back to 1999 sparked your curiosity
Definitely.
and maybe even inspired you to check out this hidden gem.
It's worth it.
Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and never underestimate the power of a good story.